The release of the original Sonic the Hedgehog game proved to be a major success. By the end of 1991, the game had sold over 2 million copies worldwide, received critical acclaim from various video game magazines, and was the recipient of several Game of the Year awards, including ones from Electronic Gaming Monthly and the Golden Joystick Awards. More importantly for Sega, Sonic was a big financial success. After a decision was made to make Sonic the pack-in title for the Genesis in America, sales for the console skyrocketed and earned Sega an incredible 65% of the market share against Nintendo. This is where the Blue Blur gained its reputation of being Mario's greatest rival, appropriate for someone that came from a project that had the code name Defeat Mario. However, not everything behind the scenes was all rosy. Yuji Naka was becoming increasingly agitated by how he was treated within the company, specifically in how he felt he was receiving very little recognition for his work on the game. He was eventually convinced by fellow game designer Mark Cerny to join Sega's American division as part of the recently founded Sega Technical Institute. In this position, Naka not only received a better salary and recognition, but was also afforded more creative freedom. This did ultimately cause the original Sonic team to be split between two countries, with Yasuhara and other developers joining Naka in America, whilst Oshima remained in Japan. Both sides did continue to communicate with each other and shared ideas on where to take their flagship series next, the result of which was a sequel that just about managed to improve on everything that came before it. And it also happens to be my personal favourite 2D Sonic title. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released for the Sega Mega Drive on November 21st, 1992, and was developed primarily by the Sega Technical Institute in cooperation with Sonic Team. While November 21st was the release date for the Japanese version, the American and European releases came out on November 24th and December 1st respectively. These days were marked as Sonic Tuesday, as both of them just happened to be on a Tuesday. Clever, huh? The box art for Sonic 2 is so incredibly memorable for me, and a massive improvement over Sonic 1's cover. The improved logo design, the checkered frame around the outside, and Sonic in his new body standing around looking cool, unaware of the looming threat of Dr. Robotnik as he crushes the number 2 in the palm of his hands. This cover helps to push the idea that this Sonic game was going to be bigger, better, and badder than the last one. It also makes the heroes look like the worst security guards ever. They don't notice the giant mustached man crushing the large number 2 statue behind them? And why is Robotnik going after the number 2 anyway? Sonic is right there, why don't you grab him? Of course, the biggest takeaway from this cover is the addition of a new mysterious fox friend, the first of many new friends Sonic would acquire over the years. This is Tails, a two-tailed fox, hence the name, and Sonic's longest running sidekick, having appeared alongside the Hedgehog in just about every subsequent game in the franchise, even starring in a few of his own games as well. The character's development came as part of an in-house competition to give the Hedgehog a companion. Created by game designer Yasushi Yamaguchi, who was also a level artist for the game, the character is based on a kitsune, a creature from Japanese folklore that resembles a fox with multiple tails. He originally went by the name Miles Prower, a play on the term miles per hour, but Sega of America preferred the moniker of Tails, for obvious reasons. Eventually a compromise was made so that Miles Prower would be his real name, while Tails would serve to be his nickname. Well, now that we're all introduced, let's get into the game. Sega! Just wouldn't be a Sonic game without it. The title screen features a menu for the first time in a Sonic game, where you can select one player mode, a two-player versus mode, or an options menu that's basically just a music and sound test. Just look at our new fox friend. First game and he's already standing alongside the main hero. Kinda makes you proud, doesn't it? The main plot of this game involves Sonic travelling to West Side Island, which is where he meets Tails for the first time. Unfortunately, Robotnik has followed him there and has set up operations on the island in order to construct his ultimate weapon, a giant space station known as the Death Egg, which is basically a Star Wars reference with a mustache on it. With Tails in tow, Sonic must free the island inhabitants, track down the Chaos Emeralds, and defeat the Doctor once more. The gameplay is much the same as it was before, but with tweaks put in place to help balance out the few minor issues. Chief among them is the introduction of Sonic's trademark Spin Dash, allowing Sonic to build up momentum before charging off and smashing through any obstacles or enemies in his way. It's such an iconic move of Sonic's that later ports of Sonic 1 would incorporate it into his skill set, making some of the more difficult levels much easier to handle. Tails will also follow right behind Sonic and will try to remain by his side, more or less copying everything the Hedgehog does, which can become rather humorous at times when he's jumping all over the place just trying to stand on the same platform as him. This actually makes Tails prone to being hit by enemies or fall into pits. Sometimes Sonic can even race on ahead of Tails, leaving him behind. After a few seconds though, he will appear flying in using his two tails. This has led to the popular fan theory that Tails is in fact immortal. Or possibly Bill Murray.
I'm a god.
While playing as Sonic and Tails is the default setting, in the options menu you can select to use just Sonic or Tails alone. There is no real difference in how they play, however. The zones have been greatly expanded upon from the last game. Not only has there been an improvement to the visuals with sharper details and brighter colours, but it looks like the team have learnt a few lessons from the previous game, as the levels are bigger and less bothersome to navigate, and offer up much more room for exploration with multiple branching pathways. Enemies have become much more varied, and so have the hazards. They even managed to fix that annoying glitch from the first game where Sonic is killed immediately from the rebound of falling onto spikes. There is more of a variety of levels as well, as the majority of zones are now 2 acts long instead of 3. Robotnik still appears for a boss battle at the end of each second act, and this time they don't all involve him floating around at the top of the screen. Sonic 2 features some of the most iconic zones in the franchise's history, many of which are revisited in later titles. While its first zone, Emerald Hill, is often compared a lot to Green Hill Zone due to having a very similar appearance, I believe a lot of it is down to design choice. Most of Sonic's first levels tend to have a similar theme to them, that of an idyllic serene paradise. It's like a welcoming sight for players and a way of easing them into the mechanics of the game before cranking up the challenge. Plus the Emerald Hill theme is pretty catchy too. Once again, the music is composed by Masato Nakamura, and every single track fits their zone like a diamond-covered glove. Oh wait, we're not there yet. Chemical Plant Zone is arguably the standout star of the zones, a night-lit industrial city filled with toxic blue goop and twisting chemical pipes. You'll be blasting through this zone, taking advantage of the steep inclines, numerous loops, occasional warp tubes, and the introduction of the series staple booster panels for that extra bit of speed. It also happens to be a water level that greatly improves upon the lessons learned from Labyrinth Zone. While the sounds of drowning are still as torturous and panic-inducing as ever, it is much easier to navigate through the levels and avoid a watery demise. In fact, the mechanics are so good that they stuck 2 water-themed zones back to back, though this one is easily cleared if you stick to the top half. Casino Night Zone is another fan favourite, with its flashing neon lights, endless bumpers that bounce you all over the place, and the introduction of another recurring mechanic, slot machines, where you can try out your luck to win it big or lose it all. Mystic Cave Zone can be a nightmare to navigate with its confusing multiple paths and collapsing bridges that either impede your progress or send you tumbling into spike pits. You also need to grab onto these hanging vines that will open up bridges that are sometimes essential for continuing. The second act notoriously has a spike pit that is impossible to escape from should you miss the hanging vine and fall in. As bad as that can be though, Metropolis Zone is even worse. It's the only one that has 3 acts, making it the largest zone in the game, which is appropriate because sometimes it feels like it goes on forever. Rotating cylinders, awkward winding cog platforms, disorientating transporters, these nuts on screws that you have to run on to take you up and down the level, and just the worst badniks in any game. There are these little star ones that explode, sending out spikes that you can't seem to dodge in time, and these mantis ones that appear at the top of a long shaft and always manage to hit you, send you back down with no rings. God, I hate these things. The final 3 zones all have separate names but are more or less tied together. Sky Chase Zone has you riding on top of a plane, dodging badniks and collecting rings. Controls are a little tricky to get the hang of here, and if you're not careful you could end up falling off the plane. Wing Fortress Zone has you navigating to the front of Robotnik's battleship. This can be a pretty tense level with lots of very close call platforming, hidden zip panels that send you flying across the screen, and a boss battle that can be really annoying, especially when you get hit and your rings somehow glitch out of your reach. You'll then grab onto Robotnik's spaceship, and after somehow surviving the vacuum of space, you'll arrive at the last zone of the game, the Death Egg Zone. This zone consists of 2 boss fights. The first is with a robotic version of Sonic called Mecha Sonic, who will charge at you with a spin dash of his own and occasionally jump to catch you off guard. After defeating him, you'll chase after Robotnik, leading to the true final boss, the Death Egg Robot, a large hulking mech that will attempt to destroy the player by stomping on them, dropping bombs, or firing its spiked hands at them. By the way, this zone has no rings in it, so you'll need to take out both of these guys without getting hit once. Once you do though, you'll escape the Death Egg and be picked up by your partner in the tornado. But like last time, to get the true ending, you need to find all of the Chaos Emeralds. There are now 7 of them instead of 6, and in order to get them, you need to collect 50 rings and activate one of the checkpoint posts found in a level in order to get to the special stage. This time the special stages have you running through a half pipe and collecting a set number of rings required to move on. This is a significant departure from the last game and provides a much tougher challenge. The pseudo 3D graphics makes it very hard for you to know when the next set of rings or enemies are coming, and it can be very difficult to position yourself in time to collect the maximum amount of rings possible, especially when you have to hold your position on the sides of the half pipe. Also be wary if you're playing with both Sonic and Tails, as there is a slight delay on Tails' movement, which means that he will almost always get hit by an enemy and lose any rings he has, potentially causing you to fail the stage. Gathering all 7 emeralds not only bags you the true ending, but if you jump whilst holding at least 50 rings in a level, Sonic will transform into Super Sonic, a mighty powered up version of the blue hedgehog with golden yellow fur. In this form, Sonic is much faster, can jump higher, and is invincible to all enemy attacks. He does lose a ring every second and turns back to normal when he runs out, but while he's in this form, he's basically an unstoppable, destructive machine. And I'm not a huge fan of this version of him. Why? Because he's so hard to control in this game. The faster speed and higher jumps are great for open levels that encourage this sort of thing, but when you have to do precise platforming, it can be so frustrating trying to ease Sonic forward enough to land on the platform without overshooting. Oh, and even though he's invincible to all forms of damage, he can still die from being crushed or falling off the stage. This makes completing levels like Wing Fortress Zone even more heart-pounding. Also, Tails doesn't get a super form. He just collects the emeralds and nothing happens. Not even a change to the ending. It kinda makes him feel like he's an afterthought in this game. As previously mentioned, Sonic 2 is also the first game in the series to feature a 2-player mode. A 2-player mode that isn't great. In this mode, Sonic and Tails race against each other through a zone or special stage, collecting as many rings as they can and trying to reach the goal first. The special stage is not that bad, to be honest. The races, however, are horrible. They just took 2 normal screens and smushed them on top of each other. At best, it looks awful. At worst, you can barely make out what's going on. Better still, they included a teleport item that switches players' positions. Not only does the blinding light disorientate you briefly, but you might accidentally break one open and lose your lead. You can also let player 2 take control of Tails in the main game, but this is only really useful in the boss fights and the special stages, as the fast-paced nature of the game will often result in Sonic leaving him behind before player 2 has a chance to do anything worthwhile. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a game I hold a lot of fond memories for, but playing it again many years later makes me realise it's not the perfect game that I once thought it was. As a sequel, it does its job exceptionally well. The controls have been refined, the levels are better paced, the graphics are more eye-catching, the music has been jazzed up, and the challenges are more diverse and entertaining. However, where the game does falter is in its new additions. As great a concept as Tails may be, and as much of a mainstay as he will become in the franchise, at the end of the day, he's just a different skin for Sonic and can sometimes get in the player's way. The execution of 2-player gameplay was not well made. The main story was just not built for 2-player functionality, and the 2-player versus mode, whilst fun at times, hasn't aged particularly well. The addition of Super Sonic does add a lot more fun to the gameplay, and if you're particularly good, you can get him as soon as the first zone. However, controlling him can be a challenge in and of itself, especially when you have to make precise jumps in order to progress. Still, don't get me wrong, I love Sonic 2. Like I said, it's my favourite 2D Sonic game, and that still hasn't changed to this day. It's the upgrade that the series needed, building upon the foundations set by the previous game and laying out further groundwork for future titles to improve upon. And we wouldn't have to wait too long for that to happen. Come back next time when we'll be talking about the franchise's most ambitious title yet, and the introduction of one of the Hedgehog's greatest rivals.